Welcome back to No Fall Weddings, week 13 edition, and what a week it was. Holy, you know what? We got half the SEC, the top tier going down. We got Colorado and Dion put in their place. Both of my teams played undefeated teams. I wonder how they went. Let's start with them. Game of the week, Indiana at Ohio State. Man, was Indiana talking some junk going into this week, saying this is their time, biggest game in the history of their program. Their coach was a little cocky, talking about Google us and look at what we've done. Well, I did Google you, and what you did was beat a whole bunch of bad Big Ten teams this year. And listen, they're not a bad team, and they're not a great team. They might be a good team. All I know is they beat up on some bad teams in the Big Ten. Their schedule allowed them to avoid Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State leading up to this. So they haven't played three of the best teams in the Big Ten. And they got the big test going into Columbus and failed spectacularly. Were people in my mentions when they went up 7-0. Did I look scared? No, of course. Now, you didn't see me, but I wasn't scared. I knew everything would calm down. Ohio State's got the talent. Everything would settle in. A couple of special teams mistakes definitely helped. Thank you very much. But listen, Ohio State, even with their makeshift offensive line, just too much talent. The receivers, the running backs. Shout out to Will Howard, too. No one's really talking about the quarterback. He really is the engine that makes everything go. He's not spectacular, but he does all the right things. He makes some really low-key good throws to the sideline, to the tight ends, over the top, then the safety. I mean, checking it down to the running back when needed. Just makes really smart plays. As long as he's not fumbling into the end zone. So, Indiana, take a breath. You didn't get embarrassed, but it was a pretty obvious beatdown. I hope for the fact as a Big Ten fan that you still make the playoffs, but I don't think you're going to do much damage in there. And then I had to read about, man, Army's really got a chance against Notre Dame. I mean, if they control the ball, they run the clock down, score long touchdown drives, they can really hang with Notre Dame. Idiots. Talk about controlling the line of scrimmage. I think the Notre Dame running backs probably were untouched for the first 10 yards of each play for about half of the game. Offensive line whipped on Army. People that actually thought they had a chance. Like, come on. Listen, I know people hate on Notre Dame, and they usually choke against really great teams, but for the most part, they take care of business against these kind of teams. And you know what? Looking at the landscape of college football, nobody's perfect. Nobody's dominant. Why not Notre Dame? Yeah, they lost to Northern Illinois like 16 years ago. But right now, they're playing like a top 3 team. They are cooking offensively and defensively. Let's get to the SEC. And I got to start with my boy Woso's Oklahoma Sooners. Boomer! Holding Alabama to 3 points. Oh, man. They're missing Nick Saban, no doubt. Jackson Arnold runs for like 6,000 yards on him. It's just beautiful. Listen, it should have been 24-10 with about 8 minutes to go because one of the worst penalties I've ever seen was called on Bama that cost them a spectacular touchdown by their freshman. But you don't see me crying. Alabama gets their 3rd loss of the regular season. Man, Kalen DeBoer, you better start looking both ways and finding some solutions. Alabama's not used to losing like that. Roll Tide, down the hill, into the water. Then we got Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. I'm telling you, I love the guy. I love his interviews, but he is not a good head coach. Just isn't. He loses too many of these games every year. They are on the right track for an SEC championship game, and you're playing Florida, who has 5 losses, and you go to there and just lay an egg. I mean, Jackson Dart couldn't do anything in the 4th quarter. It's just another Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin kind of game. Rinse and repeat every year. And then A&M in the late night game, 4 overtimes at Auburn, also a 5-loss team, along with Oklahoma. You noticing the trend? All these top teams that I'm supposed to be scared of and they're supposed to be in the playoff, are losing to 5-loss teams. So because of all that, now Georgia, who was left for dead about 3 weeks ago, right back in the SEC championship game. It's just going to start getting interesting. Who's going to get left out, even with 3 losses? I mean, it's a 12-team playoff. Somebody's got to make it. But man, losses on top of losses on top of losses. Who's not enjoying that? Speaking of choking, where you could have been in a championship game, Colorado. I've been hyping you up for about 4 weeks, saying you're playing like a real football team. You got obviously top end talent with Sanders and Travis Hunter. And all you got to do is beat Kansas. All you got to do is beat Kansas. So the Big 12 is officially a mess. It's kind of ridiculous that they're going to get an automatic playoff berth. Not just that, a bye in there. I'm also done defending Penn State. I mean, winning by 1 against Minnesota. You're not a top 4 team the same way Indiana isn't top 5 team. I will defend the Big 10 only up to a point. Like, you lost to Ohio State. You didn't play Oregon. You're not a top 4 team. Going to quickly look at the Heisman race. You know, it's just one of those years where it's not an obvious pick. I think Cam Ward has all the stats. I mean, he's breaking records with passing yards. His team's good, not great. They should have a couple more losses than they do. It's tough. It's like, is he the best player in college football? Because, you know, Travis Hunter had 2 touchdowns and a couple pass breakups in the loss, but I can only give so much credence to a loss for a wide receiver / cornerback. Like, it's not his fault. He did have a great game. Cam Ward controls a little more. Should they have lost to Georgia Tech 2 weeks ago? No. So that one hurts them. I think it's going to come down to the championship games. Does Miami win the ACC? Does he dominate? I think that could be the lasting vote because it looks like Colorado's not going to be playing that week. So if Cam Ward gets an extra game, why not? But I want you to look for the dark horse. You can call me biased, but Will Howard of Ohio State, he's got Michigan this week. He can kill a lot of demons in Columbus by finally beating Michigan. And then you get the rematch against number 1 Oregon. You play great there. You're going to be the number 1 team. You get the revenge factor. Keep an eye. Let's keep the bias going. Play of the day. Nothing really happened this week. So I'm going to give it to Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love because he does something that I think we wish we all could do at one point and just be overtly athletic than the next person in front of us.
Leonard, swing it. Love to the outside. Love to the end zone. Spectacular. And the Irish take a 2-score lead.
Whee! Let's do a quick preview of week 14. It's time. Rivalry week. It's what makes college football the greatest sport in the world. We are loaded up this year. Got Friday night starting with Georgia Tech. Georgia has to win to stay in the SEC championship picture and the playoff picture. We got some sneaky ones like Miami going to Syracuse. You know, Syracuse has had a decent year. They can truly spoil Miami in the Dome. We have a throwback, Texas and Texas A&M. You know, when A&M left the Big 12 about 10, 12 years ago, never thought these two teams would play again because they hated each other. And Texas hated that A&M left that conference. And then Texas joins them. So we get Texas and A&M Saturday night. I don't think Texas needs it, but they're going to want to beat up on the Aggies in the 12th man. But then we got the murderer's row of rivalry games. Starting at noon, the game. Michigan at Ohio State. Michigan's won 3 in a row. It absolutely kills my soul that has happened. Plus, if you add in the COVID year where Michigan mysteriously decided not to play that game, it's been almost 5 full years since Ohio State has won. Enough is enough. God damn, am I a little nervous. And at 3:30, we got Notre Dame at USC. Just a classic cross-country rivalry. USC's had a bad year, but just like Michigan, looking to play spoiler. And at the same time, we got the Iron Bowl. Auburn, Alabama. Listen, maybe it doesn't mean as much anymore because Bama's out, but that game always delivers. Thank you for watching No Fall Weddings. We'll see y'all next week. Beat Michigan.